Welcome to Capital Raisers Club. This is your host, Samson Holmatus. Today, with me in the studio, we have Mike Swigunski, who is a best-selling author, mentioned, and he has articles on Forbes, on Entrepreneur, on Inc., I think, too, right? And
all over the place, man.
all over the place. It's an honor to have you with us today, Mike. We're gonna get to learn from you, and for everybody who's getting to watch this live, definitely feel free to welcome Mike into the studio and ask your questions in the comments. Without further ado, Mike, tell us about yourself. Where you from, and where are you at right now?
Well, first off, man, you crushed my last name. Like you absolutely, it was perfect. So hats off to you, and I appreciate the warm welcome. Yeah, so about myself, like you mentioned, best-selling author. I've been traveling around the world, working, building businesses, working for businesses, and I've been to almost 100 countries. And I'm currently based overseas in the Republic of Georgia in Tbilisi. My main focus is I run my own portfolio of online businesses. I also help people buy and sell online businesses. So I just got off a few calls with some potential sellers who are looking to essentially sell their business. I also work with people that they have a couple $100,000 and they want to buy already established profitable online businesses. In the past, I helped build one of the biggest brokerages for buying and selling online businesses. Basically, this platform helps connect buyers and sellers. It's kind of like a hybrid broker marketplace. So it's called Empire Flippers. And I was one of the first employees there, grew it from 4 people all the way up to 100 to where it's at now. And about 2 years ago, I exited the company because I published my book, Global Career, How to Work Anywhere and Travel Forever, and then decided to just go off on my own journey and build my own empire.
Awesome. We have the link to the book right here in the banner. For those watching this live on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter, it's globalcareerbook.com, where you can find more info about the book, and also Mike's social media presence is there. How did you decide that, hey, it's time for me to move forward or to continue from being a serial entrepreneur, being surrounded by a lot of entrepreneurs? How did you decide that, hey, wow, I'm ready for the next step?
Yeah, so this is kind of the progression that I help a lot of people that, my book is kind of geared towards, people that are in their early 20s, but it's been useful for people at all ages and anywhere in the world. But I kind of decided to go I was helping build startups. And then at this time I built my own blog. I got into like the Gary V make money online niche. And, I failed at a lot of things. Like I've tried everything from Amazon Associates to drop shipping, e-commerce, you name it. And basically I kept trying these things as side hustles while still having like active income. And I ended up working for this company, Empire Flippers, and we grew it really drastically over a short period of time. And during this time, I started building my own side hustles. I even acquired a few businesses myself. And basically, at one point, after I'd been working there, I realized that there was a shift between we're going to all ride this business to the top, where, hey, it kind of transitioned to more of a company where you clock in and clock out. You're kind of just employee number, whatever. And basically, once that happened, I realized that I needed to start building my own empire. And at one point, I was making more money from my side hustles than I was from my active income. And I had met my full vesting schedule and just decided, I'm going to go off my own and give it a shot. So at this stage, I basically kind of had my side hustles established where I'm like, I've got multiple sources of income. Worst case scenario, I can just live off of this amount of money. And that's kind of when I took the leap. I know a lot of people do it at different stages, but I'd say like businesses can take a lot longer than you expect to get up and running. So try to give yourself some cushion. If you have active income, try to build that side hustle if your employer allows it. As long as it's not impacting your workload, you shouldn't have any issues with that, or competing with the business you're working at. So I would say that was one huge thing that I realized. Just at the end of the day, if you want to build the lifestyle you want, you have to make your own business. At least that's what I wanted. I wanted to have full control over every aspect of my life. And I think as an entrepreneur, you don't have full control over everything in life, but you have more control than if you're depending on another employer to kind of send you a check for your income and for your paycheck. So it was a slow progression. Like it probably took me, 5 to 10 years of, progressing over time to, I was initially working as a professor teaching financial economics, my first job out of college. So physical jobs, slowly transitioned to remote working, to startups, to entrepreneurship. And I think that's kind of a pretty common path, because you need to develop some skills. You need to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And you just need to fail at a lot of stuff and learn from those things and keep building. And that's the great safety net of building it while you have a job. So
What would you say to somebody who's considering right now? We have on Capital Races Club, we have both active and passive investors too. So the passive investors usually just let their money work for them. And a lot of them are working W-2s that they may want to break out from. Sooner or later, we get a lot of those DMs. What would you say to somebody who's looking to make their side hustle income match or outgrow their active income? How would you say? You said it took you 5 to 10 years. Is that somewhat reasonable?
Yeah, so I would say like my first, to get something like actually working well, took me probably like 3 or 4 years of trial and error. A lot of it was just like, first 5 years was just kind of like, I wasn't really an entrepreneur. I was just helping other companies as an employee. And then it kind of shifted into more of an entrepreneurial role as a startup company. But I would say if you're building a business, at some point you have to make that leap. The thing that I never really understood was I was working, 50 hours for the startup, maybe 60 hours, it was depending on the week. And then after that, I was writing my book and working on other like side hustles. So I was essentially selling my best hours of time to my employer, which most employers are expecting that. They want your deep work hours. But I eventually realized that if I just spend my best 10 to 20 hours a week on my own businesses, I'll have exponential growth, because I'm getting, 100% of that money that's coming into the business. So just by focusing those 10 to 20 hours of like prime working time, and a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just switch, start on your own business and then leave the employer on the back end. But I think it's one of those things. It's just headspace. Regardless of what you're doing, your headspace is still going to be limited. So let's say you do that. You wake up, you do that primary focus on your business. Then you start working, 6-8 hours for your employer. The next day you're going to be exhausted. Like that next day of work is not going to be that prime work. So I think that's something that at some point you have to make the shift over to just fully focusing on your own projects, and whatever that is. If you're living in the US, you might be able to move to Thailand and have a lot longer runway where, if you're spending 10 grand a month in the US, you can live on like, I don't know, $1,000 in Thailand, or even here in Georgia. So it gives you a lot more runway, and essentially you don't have to work as far or save up as much money. So that's one of the great things. Is a lot of people focus on improving their profit or their revenue. They don't really focus on decreasing their expenses. So with geo arbitrage, that's a great thing you can do, especially if you're looking to do this transition.
There are very few that understand that principle. Could you explain for those watching or listening to this later, what is geo arbitrage and how can you use it in order to increase your ROI?
Yeah, so basically, if I try to replicate the same lifestyle I have, so I'm based in the Republic of Georgia, where the quality of life is extremely high. It's a very safe country, fairly stable. And if I was trying to replicate that, I spent around like to have a very good life. Like I have a chef come every day. She cooks me food. I take Ubers all around the city. I go to a really nice gym, eat out at a lot of restaurants. Like to replicate this lifestyle in like any of the top 10 big cities in the United States, it would probably cost 10 times more. So I can save a lot more of my money to reinvest it into a different business. So you're able to elevate your lifestyle, save more of your money, and then use that money to either reinvest in other assets or just save it for whatever you want to do, to build up a nest egg. So I think a lot of people are on this trajectory in the US that they're going to have to work till they're 65 or 70. But if you just take your same income, move overseas, and save a bigger portion of it, you're going to go a lot longer. You're going to be able to retire a lot earlier, or semi-retire, which is kind of like what I've structured.
That's super cool. How did you get into that, and what would you say to somebody who's looking to do geo arbitrage today? I myself, I'm currently in Ecuador doing this, and I mean we've been shooting these from all over the globe. So, but for those that don't understand it and who haven't yet taken that leap of faith,
Right,
of living, the same kind of lifestyle, but it's not as expensive as it is in, Northern America or Northern Europe. Where I
right.
have to come from.
Well, I think most people just haven't tried it. Like most people have gone on a vacation and they like, oh, vacations are expensive.
Yeah.
But being a digital nomad, you're getting like the monthly discount. Like you're getting rent on a month, you're getting like the gym membership on a month. You're figuring out like, okay, this place is expensive, but here's where the locals are eating. But that took me like a week to figure out. So I would say just go and try it for at least a month. Go to a place like Thailand or Georgia or somewhere where it's fairly easy to get up and running. I think Central America, like Mexico, is a great place, but it's not as well. There is value destinations in Mexico, but like Playa, Cancun, that area isn't really a value destination. So unless you're moving from like New York City, you might save 30%, but it's not like going to be this huge, big savings unless you're in other parts of Mexico. So I would say just commit to a month and go try it out.
Yeah, I would say for those considering Mexico, Veracruz or Mazatlan could be that same kind of lifestyle, but a tenth of what the cost is in those other very, very touristic destinations.
Right.
Speaking from experience, it's great in Veracruz for sure. What you said also in the geo arbitrage, it's sure the expense part, getting that limited as much as possible, but how do you deal with employers or asking? Because a lot of people are right now stuck in their contracts. They may or may not be able to leave their current location. How do you structure those kind of contracts where you are a freelancer or you have a remote working
Right. So
possibility?
now is honestly the easiest time than ever. Like there's so many employers offering flexible remote working. I mean, I have a website that I built, globalcurd.io. You can find it on my link. And there's another great one, Dynamite Jobs. So basically, if your employer isn't allowing you flexibilities, start looking for something else. Like this is going to move things even further. All these employers are going to be like, well, why are all of our best employees leaving? Because we're not allowing them to work flexible working hours or to work from anywhere. So it's one of those things. I would say the progression is, one, try to talk to your employer. Say, hey, I really want to be able to go spend a month overseas. Start with that. And if you haven't been overseas or just go try it out. It's not for everyone. This lifestyle is not for everyone. I'll be the first one to admit that. So I would say try to keep things as a status quo, but try to negotiate at least a month overseas. Hey, I'm going to be on the same time zone. I'm going to be down in Mexico. I promise to be even more efficient than I am now, because you'll be excited, you'll be happy, you'll be excited to go to work, and start from there. And if they don't give you any sort of receptive to that sort of offer, if they literally won't negotiate it or it's a non-negotiable, then I would consider looking for something else in the meantime. Don't quit on the spot, but try to find another job while you have a job is a lot easier. So I would say try to find one of these more flexible positions if your employer isn't open to it.
You mentioned 2 websites real quick. Could you say them a bit slower, and we'll type them here in the chat?
Yeah, globalcareer.io is mine. So these are non-technical remote jobs. And then the other one is dynamitejobs.com.
.com or I? Okay. So we have them here in the chat. 1 second.
So both these are great. They're going to be mostly non-technical remote jobs for like startup companies that are usually under 100 employees, maybe smaller.
Okay.
And the good thing about these websites is a lot of times they're like, you're not competing with thousands of people. You're competing with like 20 people. So you have a lot better odds of actually finding something.
Would you say that going just for 1 month to try it out is the best way to start out, to just see if it is for you, or should a person first try out 3 months? What would be an okay kind of timeline to know if it is for you or not?
Yeah, I think 1 month minimum. I would say probably 2 or 3 months is better. I would say like if you have a few destinations, maybe try 1 month in each one to see if you're like, okay, I just didn't like Mexico. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't speak Spanish. So I would say probably to give it a real college try, you need at least 3 months, and try a few different destinations. But do a lot of research. Try to talk to people who've been there, because there's certain things that I like that for Georgia, it checks like almost every box for me. But I almost had to visit 100 countries to figure out like, oh, this is like my perfect digital nomad destination. And it just takes a lot of trial and error. But a lot of people, I think, envision digital nomads as just like, oh, for 3 months, they're just traveling every week, which some people do. But I think the long-term digital nomads that I know, at least the successful ones, they have a home base somewhere. And, you find that place you like, you have consistent friends, you have a consistent routine that, you can travel and come back and get right back into it. So that's why, finding that hub is pretty important for most long-term digital nomads.
We have a great question here from one person in the audience. Nomads is asking on YouTube, how did you get your journey started with traveling around the world, Mike?
Yeah, great question. So I got started with studying abroad. So the year before I studied abroad, I went over to Italy. It was like my first time to Europe. I was 18 and I was with my brother and my dad, and we were just traveling around Europe. And I was like, man, I love it here. It was only for 2 weeks. It was too short. And as soon as I got back, I was like, I need to find a way to study abroad. So I convinced my parents. I was working a job to save up money for like traveling and like to get a flight over there. And I studied abroad in Italy. Absolutely loved it. It was a mixture of Italian students, American students. And I was like, man, how can I keep doing this? And towards the end of the program, one of the study abroad advisors was like, hey, I saw you were organizing these events, you were organizing these trips. You should apply to be a student manager for next year. And I got back and I was like, yes, immediately got back, applied for it, because it was basically a 2-year internship for the University of Missouri, where you're essentially doing everything for the program. You're doing marketing, sales. You're actually taking the students overseas, and you're actually teaching a course through the university. So like I had friends in my class that they got college credit from me. Like they were the same age as me. Some of them, even older than me. So that's like basically how I got started. And it was my senior year. And basically I was interviewing for corporate jobs, and I had one final kind of class to take over to Europe. So basically I was like, I'm just going to go to Europe and see if I can find a job there. And because I'd been working with this university for 2 years, they were the first place I started. I was like, hey, I've got 2 years of university teaching experience. Do you have any openings that I can interview for? And they ended up hiring me to teach financial economics at a university. So I was like 22 teaching students the same age, or a lot of them were actually older than me. So that's how I got started. And that light bulb sort of went off. I was like, hey, I can just show up in another country and kind of work here while still advancing my career. And that's kind of what my book is about, is like how you can still travel, build the life that you love, but while still being, finding your version of success, which for me is building a life where I can work from anywhere, whenever I want, have location independence, and build businesses now. So it kind of talks about all the journey that I went through and the blueprint to make it happen.
That's incredible, and holy cow, that's super cool that you got to spend the whole semester teaching people as well. Who, or would you like to share with us some people that were super important for you to continue and to keep inspiring you in that journey? Because we each have somebody, especially in our lives, that have inspired us to continue in our lives. So is there anybody that inspired you to continue traveling, continue educating people in finance and later on business too?
Yeah, so I would say like I've had a lot of mentors throughout my life. As early on, it's my parents by far, parents and family, who've all been extremely supportive, like for this crazy lifestyle that I'm leading. Like I'm very grateful for having such a supportive family. The other people, like when I started studying abroad, they hired me to be a student manager for Prague, and the Prague study abroad program was not very popular. The year before I was hired, they only had 7 students. And the director of study abroad said, if we don't get 25 students, we're going to have to shut down the program. And I'm like, what? Like, you had 7 students and we got to get it to 25? It was almost like Mission Impossible study abroad. So basically, me and the other guy, who was also a manager, we just sat down and we're like, how are we going to do this? And we just like came up with a sales and marketing plan and just like implemented it. And then we grew the program to 35 students, which was the max, and then 45 the next year. So this director of study abroad was like super impressed, and he became kind of a mentor, helping me out while I was at college. He introduced me to my next mentor, who was a Korean professor working at the university I was teaching at in Prague. And he would later become like another mentor. And it kind of was one of these things where I've had a lot of mentors where, I've been in entrepreneurial roles. And then later on, like some of these tech startups, I had my bosses who I just built strong relationships with them. And they could see that I had a lot of drive for, I didn't just see it as a job. I saw it as like, I want to better the company and better myself and find that alignment. And I think a lot of my bosses have been big mentors for that. So outside of that, I've had coaches as well that have helped me a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I've had a lot of people in my life, and you just kind of have to go out and like do stuff and kind of take an active interest in these people. It doesn't have to be so formal, but if they see that you're interested and motivated, a lot of times the mentor will be attracted to you.
That's incredible. And the way you also explain it, you will attract that kind of help once you start searching for it. It's been true in my life as well. We have more people now in the live audience, so feel free to join the conversation by putting in any questions or any insights you would like to share. I would like to take this in a different direction because, Mike, okay, first of all, let's give some context here. Mike, you have over 100,000 followers on Instagram. Most people
Right.
that are on our show, they are good at marketing. They understand email marketing. They understand the website part. What made you decide to also give social media presence such a dedication and the attention that? What's your thought process around social media and personal brand?
Yeah. So building a personal brand is very powerful. I think, for a lot of people, it's the easiest way to start because this is the direction we're going in. People now, they don't want to buy from a brand. They want to buy from an individual. That's why we see influencers and like, every actor now is like creating some sort of tequila brand. And if they take that individual away, that tequila brand or liquor would be worth nothing, or it has 1,000 times more value because of that. So basically, as far as social media, I got started with Instagram just because I love taking photos. I'm super passionate about it. I have an Unsplash account. Like, I get millions and millions of views on my photos, and I'm like that. I just now see my photos on pages because I release it for free. But I was just a hobbyist photographer, and I just enjoyed improving my sort of, I don't know, I guess you consider photography art, considering my sort of art expression. So I just enjoyed it. And I think that's like with social media, like you have to be social, like you have to enjoy doing it. And the quality of my photos started improving because I kept doing it because it's something I loved. And over years, they just started getting better, and the followers kind of grew with that. Instagram is like now not the greatest platform to start from zero at because their algorithm just isn't amazing. If you're looking to start an Instagram, I'd probably focus on Reels. That's where you can get a lot more reach. But now I'm like, we were just talking about this. The channels that I would spend, like if you're listening now, I would put more time and energy into YouTube or TikTok. The reason behind that is YouTube's very evergreen. You can search for a video and it'll be there for 5-10 years, like depending on if it's a good topic that's going to be relevant. The other thing is that they're going to be paying you. Like, Instagram hasn't really ever paid me anything for ads. They do have some sort of monetization stuff now, but I would say like YouTube just seems to be, if I had to pick one sort of social media platform that's going to be around, it's YouTube. And I love it because it's more educational. Like, if I spend an hour on YouTube, I'm like learning a lot. I feel like I'm actually having a better use of that time. I spend an hour on Instagram. I feel like it's not really like that beneficial. So I'd say like TikTok and YouTube are the best platforms for that. TikTok's great because it's short form content. You can really build an audience fairly quickly. But a lot of people suggest to try to build on TikTok and then kind of move them over to YouTube. But they're very similar kind of things. So like we were just talking about this. I'm making one YouTube video a week. I'll have like that topic fairly researched, thought out. But then I'll just, on that topic, I'll split it up in like 5 or 6 micro topics that I'll make on TikTok. And so there's a lot of synergy. So it's like you're basically making similar topics. And then if they want to find the long form content, they can go over to your YouTube channel. So that's social media for me. I mean, it's a powerful way to grow a business. But one thing we were talking about is kind of like finding that niche. And you said you're making travel content, mindset, health. It's tough, man. Like I was like making travel, business, then like other like topics. So I think it's kind of good to start off like trying that and then just figure out what takes off, or just figure out what you like the best. But for me, it's like, I don't need a huge audience for what I'm doing. I'm trying to help entrepreneurs sell their businesses. That can be a 10,000 person audience of very targeted people versus, travel content. To really monetize that, you need millions and millions of followers, unless you have some really like on point product market fit. So yeah, I think it's like, try to figure out if you want to be a TikToker or you want to have a business that's on TikTok. And I think I'm the latter. So I want to have a business that's on YouTube, that's on TikTok. I don't want to be a TikToker. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I want to focus on the business first and then generate traffic with providing value on these platforms to my businesses.
That's a great mindset to have. I mean, you're thinking very long term. You said YouTube's going to be here, 5-10 years. What do you see for TikTok? Because a lot of people are, I mean, it's 2022, so a lot of people are either on or they're off the platform. They're maybe even considering getting on still. What would you say to those that are considering getting on TikTok? Should they not? Just focus on their business, focus on the platforms that already are working? What would you
Right.
say?
It really depends. Like each scenario is different. Like if you have any social media team or content, like it's not that much more effort to just put that content or to create something for TikTok. But TikTok and YouTube are like where I see the most value. Um, TikTok is literally getting more views than Google, apparently, like than even Google.com. Like there's more people on it. It's like the number one app in the App Store. I used to think it was just going to be some stupid dancing app. I was very skeptical at first. I was like, this is not worth it. And then there's like really cool features coming out. Like you can go in and actually do brand deals with these creators. So their creator dashboard as a business owner is really impressive. You can see all of the insights where on Instagram, you have no idea like really what they're going to deliver if you're trying to do some sort of influencer campaign. But with TikTok, you can see all the details. You can actually see more insights into the TikToker than that person has in their own analytics. So it's a great from that aspect. There's a lot of like some types of businesses can perform really well with ads on TikTok. And then also if you're doing ads and organic, that's a really good combination. But I would say, yeah, try it out. See if you see how it goes. And I think there's something powerful with video. Like I've had sales calls or, I've had calls where they're literally, trying to sell $1 million business, and they've watched 4 or 5 of my videos. They get on the call with me and they feel like we kind of have this pre-built relationship. So there's like a huge bond before we're even on a call. And that's just from this video that I put on YouTube that I put up like months ago. So the power of like adding your personality and putting it online, it really builds a strong connection, and it's the most powerful with video. So that's why I think video is the future. It's already like, if you get on Facebook or anything, it's 80% videos anyways. So that's the future, and whether you're going to consume it or you're going to start creating for it, I think now's the time to start learning. And I look back at my first YouTube videos and they're so cringy. You just got to get those reps in. Like you got to start doing it, and like you got to get through the bad. Some people will have a faster kind of like, uptick, but for me, it just takes a lot of reps. Like I've made hundreds of videos and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the process, of getting better, improving.
You have a great mindset when you start to think of it as a process and fall in love with the process instead of the outcome. We have a question here earlier. Are these mindsets coming from books? And if so, I would like to ask, which 3 books would you recommend for others to read that are getting started as an entrepreneur? That's the question from No Man Cecilia earlier on YouTube.
So first, my book, I got to give the self-promotion. But I actually have a reading list. Let me see if I can share that. If you go to globalcareerbook.com.
Here you have the link, by the way, for those of you watching live right now. You can see globalcareerbook.com.
And then I'll put my reading list in here. So yeah, top 3 books. Great question. Besides my book, I think we talked about this one, Millionaire Fastlane. That's one that I absolutely love. Millionaire Fastlane, MJ DeMarco. This was a book that I actually didn't read until like a year ago. And I wish I read this book earlier, because it would have helped me kind of understand building your own business and why it's he uses all these examples of like how you're never really going to achieve financial freedom by being an employee. It's not impossible, but if you're looking to retire in your 30s, it's pretty improbable unless you're like the top 1% in Silicon Valley or something. So Millionaire Fastlane, MJ DeMarco is a great one. As far as other impactful books, I would say another great one is Atomic Habits. And let's see, man, I read so many books. So as far as like mindset goes, I think I'm between Principles or Never Split the Difference. I'm going to go with Never Split the Difference as my kind of third and final book as far as mindset. Have you read that one?
Yeah, Chris is killing it. Also, Start with Noise, something that Chris uh, would recommend reading with his book as well. It's both are awesome for
Right.
not just negotiating, but thinking of it in this way when you're being influenced. It's
Yeah. Right now I'm reading 12 Rules of Life, and man, I don't know. I love JP, but Jordan Peterson is an amazing person. I love his talks and his kind of mindset and kind of viewpoint on everything. He's absolutely genius. But the book just hasn't captivated me. I don't know what it is.
I read it 3 times. I just finished it for the third about a month ago.
I
It's
don't know. I don't know why
the
I
audio
just like.
version with his voice is just gets to you. I don't know. For me at least.
Yes. So I'm doing the audio version and reading the book at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe I should just stick to the audio or reading.
Yeah.
But I'm just not getting as captivated as I have with a lot of these other books where I'm like just addicted to it.
I was walking a lot during evenings, and I was listening to this one, and it's yeah, for me at least, it's great, especially for mindset. The last couple
Yeah.
of chapters are gonna bring some tears, I think. At least
Okay.
for me. So it's super emotional kind of book.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you about, because we are in Capital Races Club talking a lot about investments and investment strategy, and what are some of the assets that you prefer to invest passively in, or that you would recommend people to get more familiar with? We have a lot of investors who are from the real estate space. I myself am very bullish in the real estate space.
Right.
What are some of the asset classes that you would recommend and that you have done really well in, Mike?
Yeah. So I would say like I've done the napkin math on real estate, and for me personally, it's not as exciting because I compare it to the online real estate, asset class. But as far as like passive goes, like that's definitely something that I look at. I think a lot of real estate takes a lot of your active time, not all of it, but takes a lot more headspace. But the main reason people are drawn to real estate is because they can leverage capital a lot easier than to leverage capital for an online business. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult to get a loan to buy an online business. Maybe that'll change. Like there's SBA loans, but even with that process, it's very hard. So as far as like passive investment stuff, like what I'm doing and what I wish I would have done, a lot earlier, is I just do automatic investing. I do automatic investing into the S&P 500. So every 2 weeks, it's just buying this. I don't have to think about it. I just take a percentage that you want to invest of your income, and then just set that up like now. The earlier, the better. And then I'm doing the same thing. So I did this about 3 years ago, where I was like, everyone's like, me and my friend, we just made a bet. I was like, I bet you the Bitcoin will outperform the S&P. And I was like, I'll put my money where my mouth is. And I'm like, I did the same amount of money in the S&P, same amount of money in Bitcoin every 2 weeks, buying it automatically. And my stocks have performed very well over the past 3 years, like 300%, which is amazing. The big outlier is Tesla. But my crypto portfolio has thousands and thousands of percent increased, even, with this, kind of bear run or whatever we're having. But it just shows the power of like, I'm having these two assets essentially automatically investing at the same time, the same amounts. You just see that side-by-side growth. It's much faster in crypto. And I would say whatever your stance is on crypto, at least do 1 to 5% of your portfolio in it. And it's definitely not too late. I would say Bitcoin, Ethereum are like my two biggest holdings, but I have a few other like smaller altcoins. But as far as like other kind of passive investments, like outside of the traditional stocks and crypto and NFTs, all of that stuff, I'd say like for me, it's online businesses. So like I was able to acquire a software business and get my ROI in 9 months
Whoa.
just by making a few small tweaks to this business. Now the business is fairly passive. I work less than an hour a month on it. The only sort of active time for this is a customer service employee, but she only bills me for the time she's in the tickets responding to people, which is fairly low. It's like under $100 a month in like that I'm being invoiced for. So it's like 99% profit and about an hour work a month of that I could easily outsource, but I just keep it to like keep me kind of in the business.
How did you get into that? And how did you learn about getting into passive, basically owning businesses without having the startup phase? I guess it's already proven
Yeah.
itself. Working.
So basically the startup that I helped build, Empire Flippers, we were helping people sell established profitable businesses that are cash flowing. So pretty much every asset under $10 million is valued off of cash flow. So within 30 to 60 months is going to be the valuation based off of the 12 months rolling net profit. So you take the last 12 months, take the average net profit, multiply it times 30. So if you have a business making $10,000 a month in net profit on average over the past 12 months, it's going to be valued at around $300,000 on the low end. And basically, you know, if you just buy this business and hold on to it, you'll get your investment back in 30 months. That's essentially what it is if nothing goes wrong. But if you grow it, like in this example that I mentioned earlier, I was able to get my ROI back in 9 months, which is a little bit, it was very fast, definitely uncommon, but not impossible in the online space. Nothing's impossible. And how I learned about this was I was helping broker $120 million worth of these businesses. And so I just kind of learned like one, that it's possible. There's like, it's definitely like the survivorship bias because the people who are sending us their businesses, for every one very successful, there's 1,000 ones that failed. But I knew that it was possible. I knew like kind of what to look for in a business because I was looking at these profitable, successful entrepreneurs all the time. And they built these businesses in a way that were passive because the buyer pools don't want to buy a job. They want to buy cash flow that they don't really have to work at. And they'll pay, 2 or 3 times, of time to get that. So you're paying essentially 30 months to get this business. And then after that, it's just pure profit, pure income. So a lot of these businesses are truly, a couple hours of work, which isn't exactly passive as compared to stocks, but a couple hours of work a week are realistically for some of these businesses.
That's incredible. You said Empire Flippers. Could you? Is that link also on your website?
Yeah. So basically, if you're looking to buy a business, I help people do that. So just reach out to me, and I'll essentially look at deals with you, help you find a deal that's going to match your skill sets, and then I help people implement a growth plan. So I work with a lot of brokers. I work with Empire Flippers, I work with other brokers to just find you the deal that's going to meet your kind of spending requirement. So if you have above 200 grand that you're looking to invest and do a deal that would be fairly passively, you can get in touch with me. There are some deals that are under that, but they usually sell out within minutes or even hours. So like the sub $50,000 niche is very like strange. Above that is like more curated and like a little bit more regulated. But those like $50,000 to $100,000 businesses are a lot more rare.
Cool. Where you said reach out to you, so that's the same link that we all.
Yeah, the same. They can, if they want help, reach out to me. But if you want to just peruse on yourself, it's empireflippers.com. They're the biggest marketplace, and the difference between them versus other kind of brokers or marketplaces. There are like Craigslist versions of Empire Flippers, meaning an entrepreneur can go on there and just essentially say whatever they want. They're going to come up with the valuation. They're going to come up with how much money it's making. Maybe it's truthful, maybe it's not. But Empire Flippers spends like 4 to 6 weeks actually vetting the business, performing due diligence, and also, making sure that it's a legitimate seller and business. So once you go on there, you know that it's at least not a scam. And a lot of other of these marketplaces, they do zero sort of vetting. So a lot of times people get scammed. They're like, the internet's a scam. None of this is real. So it's a big difference. That curation standard is what is the big separator.
That's great that they do the due diligence in syndications. That's exactly what the operators are there for. We are there to mitigate that risk for our investors.
Right.
There were a couple of questions in regards to traveling earlier. I'm going to bring some of them up now. I'd like to take a minute and share with the live audience who is here today. Definitely feel free to add any questions you want. We still have a couple of minutes before we're running up on time here. There was a question here earlier. How did you get your residency in Georgia? Was it a long process? And yeah, that question came from LinkedIn Live. Cecilia.
Yeah. So I'm not actually a resident here. Basically, if have a passport, you can come here for like a year for like 180 countries or something crazy. So you don't even need to really get residency. That's one of the big, like check marks for Georgia for me, is you show up with your passport, you can come here for a year. After that year, you can go across the border to Armenia and come back for another year. You don't have to it's not like the Schengen where you have to do 90 days, then, within 180 days. It's one of the most welcoming countries in the world with this sort of scheme that they have now for tourists. So if you are interested in getting residency, you can buy real estate here for, I think, $100,000 is the minimum. And then 5 years. So 5 years, if you buy a place here for $100,000 or above, you get temporary residency. After 5 years, you can apply to get permanent residency.
That's super cool. You shared, we were talking one of the times when you went to get this 1 year visa, they gave you something at the border, right?
Oh, yeah. So initially they used to hand out wine. So Georgia was accredited with inventing wine. They found the oldest remnants of wine here. So at the airport, it was the easiest thing. They gave me a stamp. They gave me a little bottle of Georgian wine. And I was like, what is going on? I love this place. Unfortunately, they stopped doing it, though, with COVID, which is a shame. But hopefully they'll bring it back.
I remember a friend of ours we met in Malaysia. He's Russian, but when he went to Georgia, he used to buy them by the buckets, like wine by the buckets. And they were like 40 cents a piece.
It's buckets. Good and cheap.
Yeah, it's insane. Can't wait to visit. We had, that's amazing. Cecilia was sharing. That's amazing that you can stay for 1 year. Maybe that's a place for us as well. Yeah, we haven't been
definitely.
there, so we'll see.
I love it. You guys are for me, America isn't that as interesting because I'm used to it. I love America, but European culture and traditions, it's more appealing to me. I don't know. It's probably just the grass is greener. I know a lot of Europeans and a lot of other countries are trying to go live in America, and while I'm trying to go live in Europe. So
yeah, we just came from Europe. Actually, we lived in Switzerland for a year back in 2020.
So imagine Switzerland, but 1/1000th cheaper.
Whoa.
They have beautiful mountains and landscapes here, but it's crazy cheap. Definitely. And not cheap. It's high quality for a low price. Great value.
That's perfect. Hey, when you're traveling around the world, and maybe this won't identify so many, maybe so many that are listening to this won't identify with this question, but for a lot of travelers who are traveling long term, sooner or later we face this point where it's difficult to connect with other people because they haven't been, there's a different mentality.
Right.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with new relationships, creating new relationships where you go?
Yeah, so I think building a community, no matter where you're at, is important. So as soon as I got to Georgia, I didn't know anybody here. I just started hosting events. I was like, I'm going to throw an event for entrepreneurs because I want to meet other like-minded people. And I started hosting these events. Initially there were 5 or 10 people, 20 people. I just spoke and co-hosted an event last weekend where there's like 30, 40 people there. And basically I just, talked to a lot of people, the people that you kind of jive with or connect with, then you kind of like, hey, let's grab coffee or something later. And, you eventually you kind of create this close circle of people that are like, different but like-minded. So I have a great community here of expats, of Georgians, and that's one thing I love here. It's easy to like meet people. There's a lot of events going on. It also attracts people that aren't as transient because it's a 1-year visa. It attracts people that are going to stay here for even more than 1 year, where other destinations I lived in, like, Thailand or, even Colombia, people are coming for like 2 or 3 months, then they leave. It's like this revolving door of people, which is, it has good and bad qualities. But if you're staying there for long term, you kind of want longer term relationships. So I would say, yeah, try to find a location like Georgia that's going to be more conducive to longer term expats. And just try to start hosting events for people that you want to meet, or you don't have to host it. You can go out and find, there's like an event every day happening on Facebook here in just about every city in the world.
Is that one of the best places to find these events, like Facebook groups and Facebook events?
Yeah, I would say like Facebook events, Facebook groups, or like meetup.com. Traditionally, those are the places where I've hosted or found events.
Where can we find your events?
My events, good question. Probably on my website, I have like a speaking page where I post events that I'm going to be speaking at. But as far as events I'm hosting, probably my social media. So if you just follow me on Instagram, I'm usually posting about those events.
That's how we met. You spoke at an event, Digital Nomad Week, and
Right.
there was thousands in the crowds in those, and a lot of us were full-time travelers. So that was incredible. You were talking a lot about. Wait. I'm trying to remember now. Now this is live, so
hosting events.
Yeah, but you were talking
people.
a lot about that with networking and communicating and creating those relationships. We'd like to share something with our audience here. How did that happen for you? Did you just naturally become good at it, or did you have to practice? And if so, what steps did you take to really become that person that can invite connections and relationships?
Yeah, so I have friends and family that they're like, how do you do this? You're so natural at this as far as like networking goes. Honestly, like, I think it is a percentage of personality, but also a percentage of upbringing, and kind of like, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But like, my parents used to be like, you need to learn how to talk to strangers. So they would like make me go talk to strangers and just like figure out how to start conversations with people. And I think Americans are like more kind of perceptive to this. Like, we, at least in the Midwest, like we talk to strangers a lot in St. Louis, and like, I'm from Wildwood, Missouri, so you can imagine like people are willing to strike up a conversation a little bit easier. So I think it was that. Like, I was just always social. I played a lot of team sports, and that's another great way to meet people. Whether you're good at a sport or not, just if you think you might be interested in it, that's an amazing place to meet people, is just by doing some sort of activity, sport, working out, yoga classes, whatever you're into. I guarantee there's somebody doing it. And if there's not somebody doing it, then go ahead and start it. But yeah, I would say like it definitely takes practice. It takes a lot of energy, and like it takes priority. Like, you have to, I don't know, like prioritize spending your time to do this stuff. So if you're nervous or trying to like get into it, try to just do one event a week or one event a month, whatever you're comfortable with. And if you can align it with something that you're genuinely interested in, that's the best thing, because you'll be passionate about it. You'll be interested in going. So does that answer the question?
It does. And
Okay.
I would like to summarize in the end here. I would like to summarize. There are a couple of skills that you have brought with you through school, through your businesses, and now when you're building your personal brand, becoming bigger and bigger. What couple of skills would you say that you have focused on to hone and really become really, really good at?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I would say it's kind of just trying to be the best version of myself. I know this is a little cliche, but like in every element. So I look at like the three things that really matter in life is like health, wealth, and love or relationships. And health is probably one of the most important factors because you'll see somebody who's rich and as soon as they lose wealth or as soon as they lose their health, they're like, okay, money can't fix this. And I've seen it happen personally. Like there's just money that can't fix certain health problems, unfortunately. So focusing on your health, your mental and your physical health is probably the number one important thing. Because if you don't have that sort of figured out or stable, the wealth and the love or the relationships will be a lot more difficult. Not impossible, but it'll make things harder. So I do things like meditating, I go to the gym, I go for walks, I play sports, I read. I do a lot of these things that are going to put me in a better position and I track my sleep, like things like that are very underrated or maybe you don't think about, but it's extremely important. So sleep, for example, you're going to be in a better mood. You're going to be more energetic, well rested. So that's going to allow you to put better work in for your business. It's going to allow you to be in a better mood for when you're socializing and you're working on your relationships. So it's kind of this, triangle of synergy. And without when one side is lacking, then all sides are kind of lacking. So it's just like when I'm eating healthy, I'm have energy to work out. I have energy to put into my business, to put into relationships. So I think just trying to find this like balance, and I think starting with health and then working on the other things is the most important thing.
That's incredible. We have as one of the last questions today. Um, what would you like to leave our audience with? What kind of thought or quote or life lesson or some words of wisdom that you would like to leave Capital Races Club with today?
I would say a lot of people they don't really think about the why and like why are you doing anything in your life? Just kind of do an audit. And I'm kind of like I've always been like the type of person where the crowd 99% of the people will go this way and I'm like why are they going this way? Like why don't we go this way or why don't we at least talk about it? And I think that's an important thing is like why do we do things the way we're doing them? Why do you personally want to build passive income or to make more money? Is it to retire early? Is it the what are you going to do when you retire early? Like that's not really the why. Like the why is like a big question that's going to be very different for each individual. For me, it's like I want to have the option to work or not work, and to work on my own projects that I'm passionate about and that are going to leave an impact and help others. So I'm putting a lot of my focus and energy on that is leaving an impact, a positive impact on the world, and that's kind of my why. Um, I have other things that I'm passionate about, like I love travel and I love photography and meeting new people. So focus on the why, and I think that'll be kind of your north compass. Like when you're going in life and things get hard or you just don't know what direction in, like you can kind of think, okay, I'm doing this for X, Y, and Z. And maybe it's not just one thing, but maybe it's a couple of things. And that sort of why factor is, I think a lot of things people don't really contemplate on it. So spend time figuring it out. And it's not going to happen overnight. Like it takes some people their whole lives to figure out their why, and they still don't figure it out. So that's what I would leave you with. A little bit of homework, figure out your why and discuss it with your family members, with people that are older than you, figure out their regrets and what they recommend. So
That's Thank you. That is words of wisdom for sure. And for all of you watching this, definitely go to Mike's website, globalcareerbook.com, to find out more about Mike. Is there other websites that you run that you would like to share with us, or is this one
Yeah,
the best one for all
that's
of
the
yours?
best. That kind of has everything. But I would say if you have any questions, you can hit me up on Instagram. I try to get back to all the DMs. So if you think of a question, hit me up on Instagram, or if you just search my name, I'll come up on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is actually like, I get, I don't know, so many messages on there, and most of them are like not targeted or like relevant. So Instagram's probably the best place to message me because I have like a better filtering system there.
That's super cool. Hey, thank you so much for making time for this week. We are really grateful for having you here with us and getting to learn from you, Mike. And man, can't wait to
Yeah.
see you in Georgia, or wherever else we will meet. We already met once in Mexico. Let's see wherever else we can meet up.
Yeah, man. What's your guys' itinerary looking like after Ecuador?
I'm gonna behind the scenes. I'm gonna,
Oh, behind the scenes. Yeah.
yeah, because
Okay.
we're gonna end this episode here, and then we can. 1 second.
Yeah, man.
That's it
Thanks
for
everyone. Appreciate it. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. I love hearing from people.
absolutely. And for those looking to join Capital Races Club, you can always go to capitalracesclub.com for more. We have all of our episodes up on the website. And see you all on August. We're going to be coming back after a short break. We're going to do a little bit more of traveling, and then we will be back in August with more episodes. Thank you all for tuning in, and see you all later.